I met a white supremacist group member on the internet who claimed that their groups don't necessarily support terrorism.
Mm.
So now I'm wondering if hate speech laws and what kind of speech should be protected to protect free speech in general. Like should we continue to allow the KKK to march, for example?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a very, I really, really appreciate that. It's a very good question. And before I let Will answer that, I just want to point out, because he probably won't toot the horn of his own organization, is that there are some groups, civil liberties groups, who have backed away from that, particularly after Charlottesville. And that was the ACLU, who kind of turned their focus on other things. And FIRE obviously does protect the bad ideas of bad people too. But what of that, and that was something that always mystified me, because we don't have hate speech laws in the United States. But I think there's a lot of people that think that there should be. I mean, what do you make of the idea of like a sort of European style hate speech regime?
Well, I want to say, first of all, that speech can kick your ass, right? Speech can hurt. When I'm talking to college audiences and folks ask me, how come somebody can call me a racial slur? All right, free speech guy, what's so great about that? And I say, well, first of all, you figured out who an asshole is, right? Like whoever's just said that to you has revealed something about themselves. It's the same reason you want to protect the right of the Klan to march. You want to understand who they are, what they believe, and how many of them are there, right? What kind of political power they have. And you want to be able to mobilize against it. If you outlaw that speech, you haven't driven away that idea. You haven't put it to rest. No one's going to change their mind. In fact, they're going to say, come listen to the ideas that are so crazy the government won't let you hear them. They're going to gain a foothold in power. That's what history teaches us, thinking about the Weimar Republic and any other kind of metastasizing social cancer like that. The way to address it is to drag it out in the sunshine, kicking and screaming, and take it head on. Now, I mentioned FIRE co-founder Harvey Silverglate before. Jewish man. He defended neo-Nazis in the 70s. And his friend said, Harvey, you're Jewish. How the hell can you defend these people? He said, well, look, if there's a Nazi in the room, I want to know who they are so I don't turn my back to them. You ever see Inglourious Bastards, Quentin Tarantino movie? There's that deal where like they carve the Nazi. Like, we can't let you go back into society. You're a Nazi. We got everybody to know that you're a Nazi. We'll carve the swastika on your forehead. Free speech, the Nazis carved the swastikas on their own forehead. You know who they are. So, it seems counterintuitive, but that's the radical proposition that free speech is that we protect that speech so we can see it, we can act against it, we can learn from it, we can define our own ideas against it, and that's all better than censoring it. Now, I want to just quickly say, not to filibuster too long here, but there are some exceptions. They're narrow, they're carefully defined, and they need to remain that way. But incitement, properly defined, that is speech intended and likely to cause imminent lawless action, not protected. True threats, speech that is directed to putting another person in serious fear of bodily harm or death. Again, it's a high bar, not protected. But for the most part, anything goes. To paraphrase our Chief Justice, John Roberts, as a nation, we've chosen a different course. We recognize that speech can really hurt, but we protect all speech so that the government never gets the power to say what you can and can't hear.
I will say, let me add one thing to that. I think that was perfectly put. But we have also created societal penalties for these kinds of views,
Right.
rather than legal penalties. People say Elon Musk Twitter is a cesspool of craziness and anti-Semitism and racism and all that stuff. Is that true? It seems to be to me that it is actually the case. But what also seems to be true is that no one is revealing themselves. Why are they not revealing themselves? Why are they Twitter avatars? Right. And why are they handles and not their full names? Because they know they'll never get a job again. Mm-hmm. They know that it's Googleable, and people don't like those ideas. To be associated with those ideas is a punishment, is a societal punishment, and it's going to follow you and dog you for your entire life. That's why we don't outlaw this stuff. Right. We have our own punishments, and I think they're pretty good. I think it's good to destroy people publicly.
That reminds me of a funny case we had early on my time at FIRE, and I'll never forget this one. It was a guy who had written to us. He said, our First Amendment rights have been violated. And, so you start reading the case submission. Something like he woke up on Halloween, didn't have a Halloween costume, white guy, puts on a Paul Pierce Boston Celtics jersey and goes full blackface.
They still do it. It's how many years has this happened that people are like, I'm going to do, no. Do you have a fucking newspaper?
Do you have any
ever look at
friends?
the internet?
Is there anybody around?
No, I mean, people are like, I'm going to be Paul Robeson in like 1945. It's like, no, it's always bad. It's always going to fuck you up.
He goes around all day. He said everybody's mean to him. You know, everybody shunned him, and he feels as though his free speech rights have been violated. We had to say, buddy.
No, that's just bad judgment on your part.
System works.
I do have. This is why, by the way, that you should give money to Fire, because they you know why they need money? Because they have to waste their time politely telling people that no, we can't take your case when you did blackface to be an NBA player. That costs money to say no. That's expensive.
Now listen, if he's at a public school or a private school that promises free speech, and the school
There
comes
you
down
go.
on him, different case.
That's a different case.
Different case.
So if you want to create something, go to UMass Boston dressed up as Paul Pierce.